Taking a look at the Fukushima thing. So I'm sure a lot of you remember, may have forgotten um, the event, but I'm sure you guys remember it. Back in 2011, there was that huge tsunami that had hit the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan, caused a meltdown type of thing. Bunch of radioactive water around the area, just messed it up, and they're still trying to clean up the mess. Still trying to clean it up. I can't believe it's taking them this long to just try and figure this out, but who knows? That's government for you. I guess this would be quick compared to most governments and how they run. Anyways, Japanese TEPCO has found radioactive fish near the Fukushima nuclear power plant, which they tested in May. So in May, they've been doing it ever since. They've been testing the water. They've been testing the fish around the area to see what the levels are as each year as it goes by. But the fish tested was found near the TEPCO drainage system where the rainwater flows. So how it's set up is when the rain comes down, it gets trapped in this outflow system. So, and what's going on is some fish got caught in there, and they've been testing basically the rainwater as well as the fish that got caught in there. And it's still radioactive. Surprise, surprise. Even the rainwater itself is radioactive. As of July 23rd, so not too long ago, this problem has not been addressed, and the plans for TEPCO to release 1.3 million tons of what they call treated wastewater, so their radioactive water, which they're going to run through their cleaning system, is still greenlit. So even though they just found a radioactive fish in May, as of July 23rd, the problem still hasn't been fixed, and they're still going to release this wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. Doesn't this sound lovely? Doesn't this sound great? Basically, what has been discovered is radioactive cesium is in the water, basically on the ocean floor, the bed, the water bed down at the bottom. So the wastewater has been mixed with rainwater as well as the groundwater since 2011, which that tsunami hit, and it's still registering. I had to look all this stuff up because this is out of my league, but I'm sure some of you guys know what's going on with this. The water that they're testing is still registering at 100,000 becquerels per kilogram at the seabed. So they're testing the water at the seabed, and it's coming in at 100,000 becquerels per kilogram. So the cesium is at that level. The legal level for water is only 100 becquerels per kilogram. So you've got, well, times the such power. I'm not a math guy. I'm sure somebody in there's math. I don't do math. But it's a lot. It is way past the legal level. So depending on the exposure, cesium poisoning can cause anything from nausea and bleeding to even coma and death. So depending on how much you get in your system, this could kill you or black you out to the point of being in comatose. Back in January of 2022, so a little over a year and a half ago, a black rockfish was caught off the coast of Fukushima, which tested at high levels of radiation. So this was, again, a year and a half ago, and they're still testing these fish, and they're still radioactive. This has caused suspension as of January of 2022. The suspension of all black rock fish caught off the coast, and all the the suspension of those shipments has still continued to this day. So, to put this simply, so far, since January of 2022, they have stopped all shipments of the black rockfish that they catch off the coast of Fukushima. And as of July 23rd, they still plan on releasing the wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. This is not making any sense. Am I right? And, well, hopefully my explaining is making sense, but their decision making is not making any sense. This is causing massive concerns from people as both the Nuclear Regulation Authority in Japan. It's kind of interesting that it's actually the NRA in Japan, which is our guns here. Anyways, the Nuclear Regulation Authority in Japan, as well as the IAEA, which, if you guys don't know, that's the International Atomic Agency that's connected to the UN. They've been the ones that have been the speaking people for the nuclear reactors in Ukraine. They've also been the ones that have been supposedly keeping an eye on the Iranian nuclear program and everything. They're involved with the UN, of course, so nothing good is coming from that. So obviously there is some agenda to this that's going on. So both the Japanese NRA as well as the IAEA by the UN have both approved TEPCO's plan to release, again, 1.3 million tons of their wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. The plan is to release the water over several decades, which the IAEA said would have a negligible radiological impact on people in the environment. Isn't that concerning? So they didn't come out and say, hey, there's nothing to worry about. They just said it's going to have a negligible impact. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Even though they're still finding radioactive fish there and they've ceased all shipments of it. Even with the thumbs up from the UN group, several people, including, you might not know these people, but I just want to give you an idea. Several people, including Paul Dorfman of Ireland's Radiological Protection Advisory Committee, as well as Celine Marie Pascal from American University, have raised major concerns about not only the effect that this is going to have on the environment and people, but also they're raising warning about the people in charge, the people who are making these decisions. And so you've got people from different areas that are all basically throwing their hats into the ring saying, this isn't a good idea. It's not a good idea. But not only are those people raising warnings, but officials in Hong Kong declared food import ban from 10 Japanese prefectures if the water release begins. So now we have Hong Kong officials saying, if the water release happens, we are now going to cease all shipments of seafood from these 10 areas in Japan. So we're already starting to see moves being made for restricting food. And we look at what's going on now. We already see a lot of shipment issues, a lot of food issues, processing issues going on all over the world. This is just going to add more onto that. But not only that, but already several Chinese wholesalers have halted all seafood shipments from Japan. So we're already at the next step here where we've got private companies that have already ceased all seafood shipment from Japan. So we're getting a bigger idea as far as issues with famine. And so we know in the tribulation there's going to be famine coming. And this isn't it yet, because I know a lot of people are going to say it's here. It's not here. Calm down. But what's happening is we're seeing more buildup. We're seeing more birth pains coming as we see this take place. And so, again, we've seen the grain issues. We've seen other issues with crops. We see the shutdown of farmland. We see all of these things happening. And now we're having not only bans on Japanese seafood, but possibly something else coming, because TEPCO plans to use the ALPS system, or ALPS system, which stands for Advanced Liquid Processing System, to treat, this will treat the water, but officials have noted that it may not eliminate things like cobalt, plutonium, man, I did not take chemistry. Ruthen ion and strontium. This is going to be an episode, guys. Just have at it in the chat for my pronunciation. Just have at it. And strontium. The ALPS system also cannot remove tritium or radioactive hydrogen as well. And so what they're going to do is they're going to release quote-unquote treated wastewater that still has all of these things into the Pacific Ocean, which will then continue to spread out. So we're looking at an effect on not only the sea life, but also water that will go into watering crops as well. And they're going to continue on with this plan, even though there's warning. There is already food bans going on, as well as officials in other parts of the world that are saying, don't do this. It is not a good idea to do this. But you've got the UN involved, basically saying, all is good. So again, we read about famine in the scriptures, and there's many different ways that it could happen. So like I was talking about, you have the poisoning of the seafood, you have the poisoning of the sea life in the water, which not only reduces food, but it also starts messing with other food. And so you start messing with that food chain, as well as you've got the contaminated water for crops as well, because a lot of this stuff will run into here in America, other parts of the country where that water will be used to do crops. What is all this stuff, the cobalt, plutonium, other elements and isotopes that I can't say, what is all that going to do with affecting how the crops are going to come in? This is something that could definitely be a problem. I don't see it being a problem immediately, but I can definitely see this being something coming in the future, which again, there's many different ways that famine can be introduced. We're already seeing various ones now, but I mean, storms, heat, snow, colds, poisonings, messed up water. I mean, all these things will have an effect on that. So this is something worth keeping tabs on. Like I said, I believe that it's supposed to be released at the end of this month. That's what they're saying. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on, as far as when, if it'll be released, and possibly the effects that it's going to have. Because like they said, oh yeah, we're going to treat it. It's going to be okay. We're just going to release it in small doses out into the ocean. But I'm seeing a lot of very bad things that are still going to be left behind, even though they're going to use this system. So